Oh, hi everyone. To read day, another fine day, another beautiful day, and I don't know if I should repeat this line, but any person who know me. It's about the community. Anytime somebody is doing something, anytime someone starts something, anytime something comes up, that makes me feel like wow. The first way that comes to my mind are what can I do to push this idea to the community. Today I'll talk to someone. He's more than a brother. Welcome to Teridepa.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
I want to country talk, but don't pass me. I don't know where to come my this is a shame.
Talk to them, come on.
So what's up, brother?
Master Monday.
God, you're looking good, man.
You are all the time. You are.
No, you're looking far more better, fresh, everything. It's obvious that the money is. How is family?
No, family is doing fine. We cannot complain. God has been good.
Okay.
Yeah, there's food on the table and God is on the throne. So
once there's food, protection, I think that's the foundation of happiness.
That's right, absolutely.
Now tell us about you, where you're from, your names, and where you're from.
First of all, I want to start by thanking you for what you're doing for the community. What you're doing is bringing a lot of enlightenment in the community. It's forging a lot of Cameroonians to go forward. We cannot quantify your impact in the community. Sometimes we think that those who have impact in the community are the pastors and all the men of God, and but sometimes if everybody can pick up an initiative like what you're doing for the community, each and every one put our hands together, it's going to go a long way for our community. So thank you so much for what you're doing for the community. Thank you. So to your question, who am I? I know I am here for a purpose. So I'm going to talk about who I am from the perspective of why I'm here. Because there are many things I can say about me. But my name is Chilion. I am an AWS solutions architect and an engineer for one of the world's leading consulting firms out there. Throughout my career in the AWS space, I've served in many different capacities, like what we call an AWS solutions architect, an AWS engineer, which if at some point I'll throw a little bit of light as to what that is. I've been primarily between AWS and DevOps, which is kind of like two careers that are very, very much knitted together. I'm someone who's passionate about training. Every career that I get into, I want to train people for it. I used to be in Scrum prior to getting into AWS. I trained for Scrum for about 2 years. I've been able to train over 300 people or more, and most of them are on jobs and they are doing well. When I switched to AWS also, I have a passion for training. So I've also been training in AWS for about 3 years now. I think if I get those numbers right, let me say I've trained about 900 or more students. Not all of them are on jobs, but I think that if I am able to get a good rough estimate of my head, I think about 70% of those people are on jobs. I didn't train it all by myself, but we had a team. We've been part of a team, and we are doing that training. I actually began first of all by assisting, doing more of interview preps. People who have studied AWS, and they are done with the program, and the next thing is, okay, how do I get in there and be able to get a job and start doing this thing and start making the money? So I've been able to help a lot of people with interview preps, because I tell people things. There are two groups of people outside. There are people who can talk their way into a job that they cannot do. Yeah. They can interview to be a pilot, and they convince these people that can fly when they cannot fly, and they give them the job, right? And there are people who can really do the job, but they cannot talk their way up past to an interview for it. So interview is a completely different skill in itself, and I think that's one of the things, the gifting that I have. Communication is the least of my problem. I can talk my way into any job. I believe that get the job first and figure out how to keep it, and making a paycheck while you're trying to keep it. So I tell all my students I've worked with, I said, hey, your mouth would give you the job, and then what your hands can do on the keyboard will keep the job. But before you think about keeping the job, you have to get it. Why don't you get it first? Right. So that's one of my areas with a very strong skill. And so I began with that. Then later on, I got into training. for that. I have a natural passion for teaching, and I think that it's a gifting that I got from my parents. My mom was a teacher; she just retired. My dad also was a teacher before he passed away back in 1998. So it's a skill that is naturally in me. You know, you can be very knowledgeable about a subject,
Yeah.
but it does not equate you being a good teacher on that
Yeah,
subject.
that's true.
Right? We all have suffered this in Cameroon. Somebody really knows maths. He had 5 papers, 5 A's, was a brain box. And we think that those are the people who should teach it. But they are not good teachers.
Yeah.
Some other person who had maybe just a B in maths, but can make a more excellent teacher. So teaching is a skill that I naturally possess, and I think I am about using that talent to bless the world. Too much, but that's a little bit about.
Now you talked about AWS. What's that all about?
So AWS stands for Amazon Web Services. So it's an acronym, Amazon Web Services. But what is really AWS all about? A lot of those who are listening to me probably is their first time, hearing about AWS. So I'll just try to give a little bit of a explanation of what AWS really is all about. So AWS is about what we call cloud computing. And so what is cloud computing? Before the coming of AWS, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, IBM, and so on and so forth, when a traditional company is trying to build the application, let's take, for example, Walmart is trying to build an application. Let's take, for example, Wish, right? It's trying to build the application so we can get on there and be able to do shopping. What I traditionally do is to get a facility, maybe get a warehouse or dedicate some room in their office, and they're going to buy lots of servers, and then they'll bring those servers and put those servers in that room, connect them all around with cables, and then those servers are what powers the application. So a server is to an application like an engine is to a car. So the engine powers the car, just like the server is what powers the application. So that model has been succeeding until lately for a couple of reasons. Partially, some of the reasons including that if the company does not have enough servers in place, it leads to poor customer experience. You have experienced going on a website and trying to buy shoes, and you try to Google, you click on it, and it just keeps turning and turning for a long time before it gives you the result. What do? You get frustrated, right?
Yeah.
And you go to a different seller and buy from there. And also, on the contrary, if the company wants to avoid such problems, they can buy too many servers than they need. Then guess what? They are wasting that as well. Other problems that even helps to compound all of this, the world is now a global village. A company can be resident in the United States, have their system set up in the United States, but they should still be able to sell to Europe, to Asia, to Africa, all across the world, to China, and so on and so forth. Now, given that you are a customer in the United States, and there's another person who's a customer in China, the company systems are resident, and the applications are everything resident in the United States. You who is in the United States will have a better service because your request from your computer to the company's servers is not traveling a long distance. So you have a better service. Somebody in maybe Brazil will also have a relatively good service because it's not like natural. But somebody from China would have a more poorer experience because the latency is the distance that it has to travel, the speed and the quickness that it will travel, get that information and supply back to the person in China is going to be slow. So if you have customers in very distant areas in the world, they're going to have a poor service. So all of these, and then secondly also, so all of this is compounding to a lot of problems for companies. So that's where companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, IBM are stepping into the scene to try to see how they can help companies with this. That's where cloud computing is coming from. So how are they trying to help companies with this? Again, I'm just giving like the little overview, the depths of this discussion that we can have. So how are they trying to do this? First of all, they've gone across the world on strategic locations. They have built massive warehouses, bought millions of servers, stack them in this room, do all the connectivity for them, and then tell the corporations that, hey, if you need to stand up your systems in China, stop worrying about trying to buy the servers yourself, buying too much or buying less. We have servers on strategic location all across the world. If you need it, just let us know and we'll provide it to you. And when your system is requesting for 2 more servers, because if you have 100 people on the application, your application, with the number of servers you have, it could be quick enough. If that number goes to 500, it will be quick, but not as quick.
Yeah.
If it goes to 1,000 and maybe more, it becomes even more slow and you cannot make any sale. So like, don't worry about it. Just worry about your customers. Put your applications on our servers. When it's needing more servers, we'll naturally provide you more servers. When the people on the application drops and you need less servers, it will naturally shrink down. Just like the number of things you're using in here, you only pay for the amount of electricity you use here. You use more supply, you lose less supply. So you don't run into shortage of servers and you don't run into overage of servers. It's the same thing. So that's one of the huge benefits these companies are bringing to the table. And then the second thing is also, with the old model that I just explained to you. So if a company realizes that, hey, we have lots of customers in China, in Australia, in South Africa, and they know that if their systems are only residents in the United States, it's going to be poor experience for those people in those far areas. If they want to serve the customers in China better, it means they have to go repeat the same process in the United States in China. Come to China, get a facility, get the servers, put them there, stack them there, and get things to move on. Now, a couple of problems with that approach. The first problem is that it would take quite a long time. It might take even 6 to 1 year. Customers don't have that amount of time to wait for you. They'll switch to your competitor. The second thing is that was going to cost the company lots of money up front. Depending on how many servers they're putting forth, it might cost them up to even $1 million. But now, if they have to go with something like AWS, Google, and all of these guys, guess what? They don't have to spend a dime out of their pocket. They can start using these services in a space of minutes. And no money comes from their pocket, and they can use that money to invest in other things. It's like you today, probably you want electricity in your house. You have 2 options. You could go buy a generator, and that will take what? Cash out of your pocket.
Let's not even say buy. You need to build your own generator.
Build it. It will take you time, and you can have more generators than you need, and you are wasting it, or you have less generator than you need. So basically, the point is you're going to get money from your pocket. But if you say, hey, there is TXU energy, there is Ambit energy, and all of these guys, they can literally come and connect you today, and you spend no dime from your pocket, and you just start paying as you go every month. So these are a few of the benefits. There are lots of them. Just think about the enormous benefits that this is bringing to the table. So a certain number of companies, relatively few among them, many we have in the world, have migrated to this cloud computing model, and so they're able to expand fast. Anywhere they see their customers, they're expanding and moving fast. And so what happens? They are eating the customers of those who are running slow, who are not yet in the cloud. So now there's a massive rush for companies to go to the cloud. And as a massive rush is for companies to go to the cloud, guess what? So there's a high demand for cloud experts in this. And that's why cloud experts are being paid more, because it's a rare skill that they're looking for. But Amazon was the first players in the game. They were the first people to get into this cloud computing thing. Then making a lot of money, then Google says, okay, let's join you guys in the competition. Microsoft says, we're going to join you guys too. And IBM says, we're going to join you guys too. So the AWS is the first to step in the game. They have the largest market share in the business. So, but again, just at the high level, that's the foundation of what AWS is. It's about cloud computing.
So, is it safe to say this is about IT?
It's about IT.
How did you get into IT?
So, first of all, I got into IT. First of all, my reason for getting into IT, number one, is the money. I'm going to be frank with you. I'm not going to come here and be like one nice preaching guy. I just want to be, no, I'll be straight up. I got to IT because of the money. I used to work as an accountant in Cameroon. I came to this country, worked in some banking, worked in some accounting for a while, but I don't think that was putting enough food on my table, taking care of my family well enough, and the lots of things that I wanted to do. And there's nothing as demeaning to me than a man not being able to provide for his family, not able to take care of your bills, have kids, and you cannot give them the best. So, but how I got into how, no, you didn't ask the why, you asked me the how. How I got into IT was I decided to switch from accounting.
Mm-hmm.
I did not really know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I enrolled in Dallas Baptist University, started doing my MBA in
Yeah.
Masters in Business Administration.
Mm-hmm.
While I was there, just less than a month, somebody called me and told me about Scrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little bit hesitant to join Scrum. I did a few research about it, but one thing I always tell myself is that I will lose money anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna fail whether I like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always worth trying things.
Mm-hmm.
So consequently, I said, okay, let me give it a try. I enrolled for Scrum with a gentleman. He taught me Scrum. We got out of that. 2 months afterwards, I started doing Scrum, and I liked it. It's a very nice career, very easy to do, nice career. I did that for quite some years. I got involved in training. Then when I used to work for a company called Toyota Financial Services, I worked with them for a while, and my team there was doing, was a cloud computing team, AWS and IBM.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, they were saying things over my head that I didn't know, because as a Scrum Master, just a people leader. Like,
Yeah.
you're not the hardcore technical person.
Yeah.
So you are leading people who are doing something sometimes that you do not understand. But me, I like to know what the people I'm leading are doing, even if I'm not doing it. But let me know enough about it to be able to speak their language.
Yeah.
So I went forth to go study AWS so I can be able to understand my team a little bit
Yeah.
more. So when I got into the course, I got done with it, and I tend to like it. And then more especially, I was making a lot more money. They thought I'll make more money doing AWS than doing Scrum, so I stayed in AWS. You know, but prior to getting into all this IT thing, I had no IT background. You know, my background was accounting, my background was finance, nothing to do with IT. But I would say something that would motivate anybody. Like I said, I got into this space because of the money. I would not lie to you. We came aboard here because we need to make money,
So, yeah.
and life was not the best for me. And when I decided that I needed to make a change, a transition into something else, into IT, I stopped working as an accountant for a while, and I was just driving Uber around. And that exposed me to quite a lot. I would realize from time to time I'm going to pick up some very young guys from the airport and drive them. I'm dropping these guys in some very beautiful neighborhoods. I see the kind of houses that their kids are running out and embracing and welcoming them from. I said, dude, what makes this guy
Different from me.
different from me? Do my kids not also
Deserve this?
warrant to live in a neighborhood like this and run out of a house like this? I'm like, I need to make my kids proud of me. I need to give them the best. And I said, these people I'm dropping in this neighborhood are not more intelligent than me. And so whatever they are doing, I can do it. And this is my philosophy in life. Don't be angry, please. I believe that there's nobody in this world that's more intelligent than me, even you.
No,
So don't be angry.
no, I have the same thing. When you're talking, I look at, okay, he's smart, but how did I get to know he's smart? That's because I'm smarter. That's my conclusion.
But I believe that I'm more smart than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that if we write an exam on 100 of us and I said 20 persons pass, I know that I'm among the 20. I might not be the first, but I'm among the 20. But if they say out of the 100, only one person passed, nobody should check their name, just next me.
Yeah.
I'm the one person who passed.
Yeah.
So, but all jokes aside, maybe the facts on the table might not prove that I'm the most intelligent person in the world, but what's most important to me is that I believe it.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach life. If you can do it, I can do it better.
Wow.
So I dived into IT. It was tough, but what kept me going is I needed the money for my kids. I needed money for my wife. When I wake up from bed and I look at them, my kids sleeping, look at my wife sleeping at 2 o'clock in the night, I said, all these people,
They need something better.
they're looking up to me to give them a future. So I got to keep this moving. And that's how
Wow. Now you decide to teach. You're already making the money. You're comfortable. I say you're comfortable because I know you. I've been to your place. I know the car you drive. I know the neighborhood you live in and all that. Why did you think it's important for me to get into teaching people?
I think first of all, primarily is the gift that I have. And it's a gift that I have not only demonstrated as a gift in IT or It's a gift that I believe I have demonstrated excellence in everything that I have taught. In the church, I've had many opportunities that I had to teach things about the Bible, and I did well. Everywhere. Those who know me have told me many times, you are a good teacher. So I think that one of the ways for me to give back to my community, or one of the things that I have to give to the world, is what God has blessed me with, the gift of teaching. You know, I believe that I naturally have that skill, that I can take a very complex concept and be able to break it into chunks that people can understand. So it's more of a passion to me. It's more of my gifting, and also secondly, it's about me being able to impact my community as well, giving back to my community. You're giving back to the community through what you're doing, this enlightenment and exposure. And I think that I would be able to give back to my community also by trying to mentor people, you know, to also get into this career. And if somebody's living in an apartment and barely making ends meet, and the person can be able to attest that I taught the person AWS, I coached the person through the interview, and the person went to buy a house today and is doing very well. I think that's a lot of satisfaction to me. I feel like I've given back to the community. So to me, it's giving back to my community the best skill, gift that God has given me, the gift of teaching.
AWS, just tell us a little bit about the program, what it covers.
So the AWS program, first of all, our training, our focus on our training is everything that we know as an AWS expert in any career, any capacity you need to succeed, we're going to bring that to you. So at the broad level, even as we go into the program from the day one, we keep our eyes open. What is recent in the market? What is trending? What are those skills and tools that they need? We'll see any one of them, we'll pull them into the curriculum. But from a broad perspective, just to name a few, our program will cover all the AWS tools and technologies and services. There are just too many for me to mention. Tools about computing, tools about networking, tools about databases, tools that pertain to storage, tools that pertain to configuration management. There are just too many for us to be able to talk about. And it's also going to spread into DevOps, all the popular tools in DevOps that they use, tools like Jenkins, you know, tools like Code Pipeline, you know, tools like GitHub, tools like GitLab, tools like Ansible. There are just too many for us to cover. We're also going to span into things like containers. This is also part of like more of AWS, you know, Kubernetes, Docker. We're going to get into all of that. And Linux also is something that you cannot survive without. It entails a little bit of programming. Python also entails a little bit of programming also, which has to make sure you are very much hands-on. Then also, in addition to that, one thing I add that a lot of people who teach don't do is to give my students an overview of Scrum and Agile. So I will not be training them on this as if I'm training them to become Scrum Masters, but I'm training them to be able to understand the environment in which they're going to work. Because when they get out of the program as AWS engineers, they're going to be part of an environment called Scrum, called Agile. They'll be part of a team, and that team, they'll be part of what they call the development team, or the developers. So they need to know about what those things are, sprints, you know, user stories, you know, story points. There are some things that if you want to say you've been doing something for a long time, by default, they expect you to do that, right? It's like me training. You come from school as a BSN in nursing, right? But when you go to the hospital, you're not only going to be doing nursing. You'll be preparing some end-of-day reports. You'll do some small financing, some video management, and stuff like that. So those are the environment in which you work in. So I'll make sure they are very much enlightened from a space of Agile and Scrum. You know, disseminate that so they should know the environment. So, yeah, kind of. So it's kind of, there's kind of a lot in the package for me to unveil all, but we are full blown.
Job prospects?
I would say that one of the hottest skill in the IT industry right now. I mean, when I say hottest in demand. It's not necessarily their most high paying, right? That there are career paths like machine learning and artificial intelligence that could probably bring in more money to the table than AWS. But one of the hottest skill that are out there that are looking for in the IT space right now is AWS. Yeah, it's cloud computing. So it's one of the hottest. The job prospects are just too enormous. You know, the good trend of AWS right now is still on the way up. You know, every career that comes, you have it going, then it starts beginning to plateau, level up, then it might start coming down. For right now, for AWS, it's still on a steady way up. still like this, right? So the prospects are, the number of jobs out there are more than the engineers that we have in the industry. So, but
So who is this for?
this is for anybody. I would
You
say.
think so?
Yes, I would say so. If you think it's not for anybody, then it means it's not for Chilean. Because Chilean got into IT without any IT background. I was an accountant. I worked as a mortgage professional. I worked in many different things. I had no accounting background. I came to this country. All I knew how to do is to go to a cyber cafe and be able to browse Facebook and stuff. I had none of that knowledge. And so if I have been able to transition into IT and I can do a lot of technical stuff right now, then I believe anybody can do it. And we have trained people who are fresh from a warehouse. We have trained people who were fresh from Cameroon, you know, and the only thing they did was come to the program and they are in the job. So literally anybody who's, not to look down on any profession, we've trained people who were CNAs, who their job naturally does not involve them being on the computer from 10 to 10, they're just caregivers, you know, and lots of people, and they have been able to succeed in it. And so I would say, why would you not succeed in it? So that's just about, if you have the interest and the commitment, we can make you to become an IT expert, an AWS expert.
You want to talk about the pay? Do you think it's necessary?
Oh, yeah, I think it's necessary. Some people are motivated by the money. Like me, I'm motivated by the money, right? So I have passions that I pursue. There are lots of things that I do other than teaching AWS, you know, but one of the things, or other than doing AWS, but one of the things that I think for me to pursue any vision heartily, I first of all need to be able to put food on my table. I make sure I put my family in a house, in a home. I make sure they don't worry about rents. I make sure the kids have everything they need, and I can run with any vision that I want to work with. Some people are motivated by that. I have fellow friends who are pastors, and they reach out to me that want to do AWS because of the money. Because when they have enough money, they're able to take care of family and all of that, and they can give them time to go and pursue and be preaching.
Yeah.
So yeah, the money, AWS, the average pay for AWS right now is $150,000 annually. To put that on a per-hour basis, if my maths is very correctly, it's going to be something between around the $85 an hour mark. $85 an hour mark. You can get lower, you can get more than that, depending on your bargain. But from a salary perspective, because most of the jobs in AWS, I'm not saying all, but a huge amount of them are full-time jobs. So averagely in a year is $150,000 annually. I've seen people that we've trained who have been able to pick jobs with $230,000 annually. Right. And there are people who have way less than that too. Right? It all depends on your bargain. And those are all things that we coach you in the interview with on how to make those bargains and get the most out of it.
Now, what does it take? Is it like an in-class study for the program, or how does it work?
It's not an in-person physical location. No, it's not that. It's on Zoom. We have students all across the world. We have students who studying this from Africa. We have some students in Europe, some students in Canada. So we do it on Zoom. It's remotely. And again, as an IT professional, that's kind of the environment you're going to be working with for the most part. Some few companies who want you to come into the office to work, but COVID-19 has proven to companies that employees can be very functional in where they are. So lots of IT jobs, most of people in AWS right now, they work from home. So literally, you're going to be working with colleagues that you've never seen. For the past more than 3 years now, I have never driven from my house to work. I work with colleagues from India. I have some colleagues in the Netherlands. I have some colleagues in South Africa. We've never met in a physical location. We are working on Zoom, right? I have one of my colleagues who traveled to Cameroon and worked from Douala. You know, she was there for about 3 weeks. She was bereaved, and she worked from there, and came back. So I think with the training being on Zoom is even good, because it helps the students to start experiencing the kind of environment that they're going to be working with.
Man, that money, it's I don't know if I should. I feel like I want to join. So how long does it take for one to become
So it's a 6 months program. By the time we start getting down to the 6 months, we've seen people who are picking jobs, like when we are like 5 months into the program, they're already picking jobs. Because by the time we go to 4 months, we're not completed, but we've covered enough material that you can be able to take an interview and still get the job. We're not done, but we've covered a lot of material that you can interview and get a job. So some people start getting, you see people start getting jobs, those who are really serious and dedicated and going all out for it. People start getting jobs like 5 months. By the 6 months, people are getting jobs. Some people also, realistically, some people also take longer than 6 months to get a job. Some people, we've had people who train that took up to about 8 months or more to get a job. Again, you know, it's a partnership.
That's true.
I can teach you as well as I can teach you. I can teach you with the anointing and make you to cry. But if you don't sit down and also read the things I've taught you, practice the things I've taught you, there's just no magic that can happen, right?
That's
But
true.
for anybody who is serious, dedicated to it, give yourself 6 to 8 months. Let's say the program is off, you start interviewing, you should have a job. But we've seen people having a job. Like,
And your next class, your next session starts when?
so the intake starts in January the 16th. That's when we're going to be starting the intake. Yeah.
I think I want to join.
You're welcome, my brother.
Yeah, definitely I want to join because this is to really end. What is going to happen is I'll report to these people, okay, this is the first month, this is what we're doing. He told me this, he told me that. I know it is not guaranteed, like you said, because that's a good thing.
Correct.
Depends on the effort I put. Also depend on the amount of resources or whatever I'll invest, right? So I'll make sure I'm a good student and everything, and let's see what happens in 6 to 8 months.
Absolutely. And the
Okay.
good thing about it is that I think AWS is compatible almost all careers, or IT, career and IT
Yeah.
is compatible almost anything else you want to do. Right. What you and I are meeting here after work.
Yeah.
Right. So you work what? 8 to 5. You work from your home. And after that, weekends and evenings, you can go push for everything that you want. And you working from home,
Yeah.
there are lots of other things that you can do
That's
that I
true.
don't have to speak on the camera.
That's
We
true.
can talk about that offline. But I think it's one of those careers, a career in IT is one of the careers that is compatible with a lot of other things that you want to do. We can talk about that offline. There are a lot of things that you can do while in a career in IT. So it doesn't mess up Toride.
Yep. Yep.
Toride is still going to move.
Run. Yeah.
And if this place is your office, you can work in here.
Trust me, just like you said, one of the things I was talking to someone and they were telling me, hey, are you thinking about this and this and that? I said, yes. Say, have you thought about just getting knowledge about these things? I was like, do I really need them? They say, yeah. Because if you're talking about Toride and you plan to expand to the level that you want to expand with companies all over, then you need to have knowledge on these things.
That's
If
correct.
not, somebody will exploit you.
That's correct.
You either be overpaying somebody or
That's correct.
you probably hire somebody for something you can actually manage on your own.
That's correct.
Or even if you hire somebody because you need to hire them, guess what? The fact that you have a little bit of knowledge about that will help you guide them.
That's correct.
And
That's correct.
I feel like
correct.
I'm serious about it.
Yeah.
I'll give it a try and I'll do everything possible
would.
and then let's see where it gets.
It would be a very big pleasure.
Wow. Is there any
Very
other
big
thing you wanted us to talk about that?
I just wanted to also encourage that. I mean, all of us coming to this country, myself, I don't intend to work for anybody to be an
Forever.
employee forever. I want to get that to a point where I'm able to set up my own business and work for myself and have the investments that I have work for me. You know, but why am I in IT right now? It's a very lucrative career, and I think that it can give me enough capital to set me unemployed, self-employed tomorrow. There are lots of investments I'm doing right now that I would never have been able to do it had it been I'm not in the IT career. So personally to you, I think there are some heights that Toride needs to attain, and Toride needs finances to get there.
Yeah.
And you cannot rely all on that finances coming from the process that Toride.
That was
Because
one of
first of all, I don't think that having studied you're not doing Toride because you need money. It's
Yeah.
more about this to be a blessing to the community, to impact the community. But even charitable organizations, even orphanages,
They need-
right?
yeah.
They need finances
Of
to
course.
do the work. They do churches
Of course.
need money to do the work they do. And I think that a career in IT would put quite a lot in your pocket that will be able to furnish this vision to go to the
higher
extent
heights.
that you wanted to go.
Trust me, that was one of the biggest mistakes I made. Like, I decided, because I learned everything on my own. The camera, everything I learned on my own. And what happened was, during my early days, I quit my job and I decided to, okay, while I'm learning these things, I'll make money from what I'm learning and then invest and all of that. But that was I should have done something else, something as bigger, something really like maybe like IT or anything that can really get me huge money work for 1 or 2 years, then I don't think I'll buy this. I'll buy more expensive equipment, and like I think that makes a lot of sense. Man, thank you
Yeah, my
very.
first 4 years being in the United States, I struggled to pursue more of business, but I got to some limiting points. I did taxes for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Then I got to a point where I was like, I need to make a detour, and I made a detour into AWS now. And that vision for having my own self-employment is not yet dead.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, if somebody owns a business that makes $100,000 a year, and you have a job that pays you $200,000 a year, the person with a business of $100,000 a year is richer than you, is better than you. If the person drops dead today, his kids can inherit a business of $100,000. But if you're a medical doctor today, you make $250,000. You drop dead today, your kids can walk to the hospital and say, "My daddy used to be a medical doctor. I've come to take his position or his salary." It's not going to happen. But to me, this is also going to be a vehicle, that can take me to that place that I'm going. So especially to my African community, to anybody around, but mostly to my African community, because I know that we Africans, our life is different from those in Cameroon, right? I mean, those who are born here. The typical American thinks about himself, his family, himself, his wife, and his kids. That's it. But we Africans, we know that for every dollar we work, it's not just myself, my wife, and my kids. There are lots of mouths, my uncles, children, my siblings behind it are looking. So we need to work harder. We need more money than an American with the same family size need. And to give back to my community, I think this is a lucrative career that any young man who has the brain pumping should be doing this. I'll also say a few more things. I know one of the biggest things, and this is what I say. When I say I've delivered value to somebody, value to me is not that I taught you AWS very well. Value to me is that you do the AWS, and after that you're able to have a job. That's my definition of value. That might not be yours, but me, as the CEO and the founder of Prospect Consulting Services, value to me is that you came and you did AWS in Prospect Consulting Services and you got a job. And so the way to cross that bridge is interview preps. We have a vigorous interview preparation and package that we're putting together. I'm not going to talk about that package here and the strategy here, because again, my competitors are also looking.
That's true.
Listening to me, right? So, but as we hold the quality of our training to 100%, we equally hold interview preparations to 100%. And we also offer on-the-job support. We know it's a new career. If you finally get in and you get into that career, guess what's going to happen? Your panic is doing the job. So we also have a structure in place to help with that. I'm not going to unveil everything here, but those are things that we can always always talk about. But we are here to serve the community, to help as many persons as possible to see the lamplight.
Man, thank you very much for coming. One thing is sure, phone numbers, social media handles, and everything is going to be on the screen. Give him a call, send him a text or email or anything if you have more questions. My brother, I hope to have you here at least once every month or once every 3 months so we can talk about everything you're doing for the community.
Thank you very much, Tori.
That is more to I've got to do. I don't hear. I join for January. After 6 months, I will call you for you. Me tell you what's a day and wait till it happen.
You're welcome, Tori.